Hey guys, welcome back to 247 DIY. Today we've got what's probably going to end up being a pretty quick video. What we have here is a Craftsman Rototiller I picked up not too long ago. It was a pretty cheap find I found on Facebook Marketplace. Paid $40 for this. Engine works, engine's running. It just needed a little TLC. We're getting a little bit late in the springtime here. My wife and I want to put a garden in this year, so I need to get this operational, so hopefully next weekend we can start putting our garden in. Let me go ahead and show you what I've done so far, because I actually started working on this before I started the channel. I'll show you what we've got done so far, and I'll explain what we're going to be doing to get this finished up in the video today. Alright guys, so first up, the first thing I had to do to this was I rebuilt the carburetor on it. The seller, even when I bought it, they mentioned that every time you shut it off, fuel would just pour out of it. I don't really know if this shut-off valve here is stock or not, but either way, he said you got to shut the fuel off every time. So obviously that indicated that something was screwed up with the float system and the carburetor. So we ended up having to do a rebuild. Originally, all I wanted to do was just buy a new carburetor, but for this particular motor, new carburetors aren't available. You can't even get like a Chinese knockoff. There's not even anything close that you could throw in there that would work. So luckily, they still sell rebuild kits and parts for it. Didn't go super crazy on the rebuild. Really, all I did was a new bowl, because there was a ton of varnish in it, a new float, a new needle valve, a new seat, and I think that was about it, if I remember correctly. And then obviously a new gasket on there, and we threw that on. I did start it up and run it. It doesn't appear to dump fuel out anymore. The only thing I want to keep an eye on when I do end up starting this up again is there was still a bit of varnish up inside here, and I noticed some of the like the throttle valve was sticking a little bit. It doesn't seem to be stuck now, but we'll find that out when we start it up again. And lastly, this didn't come with tires on it. I had to buy new tires, which was a little frustrating. I assumed that all of the little fixes I had to do to this were going to be cheap, and this was going to be a huge bargain finding this thing for $40 on Facebook Marketplace. A pair of these tires, plus or minus $5, you're running $80 for a pair of these tires, which was frustrating. I would have never guessed in a million years that a pair of these tires would be $80, but it is what it is. I did go ahead and throw this one on already without filming. I was skeptical as to whether they were the right size. It turns out they are the right size, but it's a bit more frustrating than it needs to be because these wheels are rusted and seized on the shaft. You can see all the discoloration here. I heated these things up so hot, but there's no witness holes in this rim. I suppose I could have drilled some holes and then used a puller maybe to get some leverage on there and take it off, but they are on there, and I didn't want to screw anything up trying to really smash away with a hammer or a puller and bend things or break something. So I ended up just mounting it like it is on the tiller, and it went on beautifully. I put this on about a week ago. It's still holding air just fine, so we're gonna go ahead with just doing it this way. I also broke the retaining pin, so I just threw a nut and a bolt through there for now. So I'm gonna spin this around. I'll throw it on a time lapse for mounting the tire. I don't have like tire spoons or the proper tools for trying to get a tire on, so I'll just throw it on a time lapse. You can watch me struggle for a minute. Let's get that other tire on, and we'll go from there. So first we got to pull this valve stem out before we can do anything. This is just a valve stem puller tool. I got this on Amazon. It was a whole kit. It comes with a bunch of tools to pull the cores out, as well as a bunch of valves. It was a pretty good deal. Yeah, that happened on the other one too. These are actually so old and dry rotted from sitting that they just split in half, but you can just push the other half out the back. There you go. And for the new one, just a little bit of soapy water, just to help it to be able to slip through there. Pull it back through the same way that you pulled the other one from. Once it pops through, you're good to go. So again, like I said, we're just gonna view this time lapse here. I don't have the proper tools, so I'm not gonna like go into detail telling you how to do it because it's really probably not the right way anyway. But I just used pretty much all three of my pry bars here. You get the front lip on first, get that over the face of the rim, which is usually the easier part. And then when you get the outer lip, that's pretty tough, and you'll see me struggle here. But just keep soaping it up with water and using your pry bars and just get it stretched around the rim. Alright guys, so that actually wasn't too bad on this side. I'd say from what it took me to do on the first side, maybe took a quarter of the time, so I'm pretty happy with that. That wasn't too much of a pain at all. Now as far as setting the bead, I tried the ratchet strap method I've seen people recommend, where you go around the tire and squeeze it down real tight so that you can pull the core out of your valve and blast some air in there. It didn't work, so I ended up just doing I don't know what you want to call it, the fire method or the explosion method. It took me quite a few tries, but eventually I did get it. So let's see how many tries it's going to take me this time. And all I used is some throttle body cleaner. This one's actually almost empty, so I might have to switch to brake clean or something like that, and torch to light it off. Alright guys, so you saw there, once again it kind of gave me a decent problem. I don't know if the mass airflow sensor cleaner I was using is just not volatile enough. I had a can of starting fluid, I have no idea what I did with it over the years. It's not something I need often, but the one attempt there I pointed out, the bead did set, and then it popped back off, but luckily the back was completely set, and like this front ring here was probably like 2/3 set. So you saw I just kind of squeezed the tire down eventually, and then I pulled the core out so I could just blast full flow of air in there, squeezed down, and the bead caught, and I was able to inflate it. So now let's go ahead and replace this old crusty belt with a nice new one. And lastly, we just need to get this cover here. It covers the opening to the throttle body, as well as it's got your choke control on it. Okay guys, so the very last missing piece of the puzzle is the complete lack of air filter here. I didn't notice it when I bought it, just wasn't on my radar when I was looking it over. There's good and bad with that. The primary filter's not bad, it's like $9. And then there's a plastic kind of bracket, cover, retainer that sits over that. Again, not bad, like $6. And then there's a pre-filter, same thing, less than $10. But then to get a replacement plastic cover that houses all that, that's like $50. And it's kind of more than I'm willing to spend right now. I think what I'm going to do is just take probably the primary filter and that bracket. I'll buy that and then we'll like zip tie it or tape it on there or something. And if this runs well for this season and I plan on using this tiller again and again, I may go ahead and purchase that cover. But let's go ahead and get this down off my stand here, fire it up, and see if everything works. And since that last bit was filmed, it's actually been about 1.5 years. You can see that the tiller here is actually pretty muddy, and that's because I did go ahead and use it last spring to till the garden. I didn't do it intentionally. I actually kind of forgot about the whole needing an air filter thing, so I did run it for the time that I needed to run it to till the garden without an air filter last year. However, in the meantime, I have gone ahead and decided to get the parts needed to get the air filter on there. So let's go ahead, get the air filter on there, and I'll go ahead and start it up and show you that in fact it does work after everything that I put into it. Alright, so for most of the air filter assembly, I just went with genuine Briggs & Stratton parts. We have the pre-filter, we have the air filter assembly bracket, as well as the actual air filter. The part that ended up being hard to get, if you remember earlier in the video, I mentioned that these covers were going for about $60 online, it's $70, $75 after shipping. I decided to just go ahead and pull the trigger, and then the first one that I ordered, they sent me an email about a day later saying that the part's no longer in production and they couldn't get it to me and refunded my order. Tried that about 3 or 4 more times on other sites, and it just turns out that nobody had one. I couldn't even find anybody that had like new old stock. So on a whim, I reached out to a site that I just found through Google. It was a small engine scrapyard recycler out of Missouri, and they happen to have a website. So I shot them an email. I was like, hey, listen, this is the serial number for the Craftsman Briggs & Stratton engine that I have. Here's the part number for the air cleaner cover that I need. And within an hour, guy emailed me back with a picture, said, hey, if this is the cover you need, I've got it, $15 shipped. We'll just exchange through PayPal, and we did, and he shipped it out to me 4 or 5 days later. I have the cover. It's not in the best of condition, but being that I can't even find a new one, it's gonna have to do. So big shout out to Harold's. I'll leave a link to their site down below because honestly that was super great customer service, especially the speed at which they got back to me, and they were actually able to not only know that they had this in stock but go and find it. So let's get this installed. Before we go ahead and start it, I thought I would just do a little bit of maintenance again this year on it. Last year I did change the oil. I was going to go through and show you the whole oil change process, but I don't have any just regular 30 weight oil on hand right now. But this little plastic cap here screws off. That's your fill. And then down here you just have a square drive oil drain plug. It can be a little bit messy, so if you have like a bottle you can cut up or something to create a funnel to keep it from spilling on there, you just drain it out, fill it up through there. 20 ounces, I believe, of 30 weight oil is all it takes. But since I didn't do it last year, we'll go ahead and replace the spark plug. You just take this cap off here. It's a little access hole right down through your gas tank. I've already pulled the spark plug wire off there, and there's your plug sitting down in there. You'll need a 3/16 spark plug socket, and I've got the new plug right there. I'll throw the part number down below. Let's go ahead and get this changed out. One last thing I almost forgot about, I did make a little plate for the back here. I don't know exactly how important it is, but I just took a piece of scrap metal that I had laying around, cut the little furrows in the bottom of it, and painted it with as close a match to Craftsman gray as I could get. And I think it came out pretty good. So from that little test run, and it was doing that a little bit last year, it seems to be doing a little bit more now that it's got the little bit of restriction from the air filter on there. The carburetor could use it with a little bit of a tune-up, but that's no headache. I can sort that out this year before I go ahead and use it. So if you like the video, guys, be sure to hit that like button. Feel free to leave a comment below. And as always, if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Thanks.